Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. It's Jillian. So at this point right now, I'm kind of working on the last part of my book. Not like the last, but the part of the book that is going to describe my projection of what I want the new world to look like. And really, I am an example of what the new world would look like because I'm writing about it, and this is what I'm projecting. And what I'm writing on Facebook is exactly what I want the future to be. And the future is now. Okay? So, in the first part of the book, in the preface, I say that this is going to be the last book in this series because the future is now. I am now developing the future that I want to live in. And it's really interesting that I am a projection of the future because the future is now. I am exactly exhibiting what I want the world to look like, but I'm only one person and I am the world. Now, how will the rest of the elements and biodiversity react to me? Well, no different than a storm coming through or several storms coming through, and will do what they do because storms do what they do. They really don't have any rhyme or reason except that they're reacting to whatever stimulus causing them to be a storm that comes through. And so I'll weather the storms. I mean, if the storms are that overwhelming, then yeah, you will see indicators that you need to get out of harm's way if storms are that overwhelming. But I haven't had any indicators, so right now it's relatively peaceful out there. As far as me being a new world in a universe that is full of different worlds, full of different Andromedas, which is like another galaxy. Because I think all of you guys are different galaxies. Some are very similar. And then how do these different galaxies influence and impact each other? Okay. So I'm using now terminology that I see every day online, especially around my stock. I still haven't sold that Inovio stock. I'm just like, it's not really been a priority, but you see things that are trending upward, trending downward. Trending upward is as above world. When something is trending downward, it's a so below world. And so there are a lot of terms and characterizations of plants, animals, biodiversity, and elements that would fit in the so below world, such as drugs, therapies. Okay. Anything alcoholics, anything that is symptom management in the so below world. Okay. And anything that's symptom management in the so below world would have a pejorative connotation where someone would have a characterization, whether it's good or bad, addiction or non-addiction. And so we have to examine the world in the so below world, because the so below world means that you're at a deficit on a continuous decline. And so yes, there is a word called drugs, addictions, and therapies that would characterize how a biochemistry would be influenced by the world around them. And so you guys know that a person could be a drug to someone, a place could be on some level, a thing, certain types of foods on some biochemistries would be a drug to someone or something. And so you have to understand that your biochemistry is going to be the one that's going to be ultimately determine whether or not that characterization of how an animal or plant or an element would impact your biochemistry. So a characterization. Okay, so if something is a drug, it's because you are at a deficit and you have a type of biochemistry that would be easily influenced by that specific entity. Okay? But I've noticed through my evolution, and I'm telling you, I'm vastly different than where I was in July. In July, I went to a bachelorette party. Hey guys, hey Dorothy, hey Patricia. In July, I went to a bachelorette party, and I was having issues prior to that, thinking, do I really want to go? Because I know there's going to be smoking cigarettes. I know there'll be drinking alcohol, and I haven't smoked a cigarette, drank alcohol prior to July really at all. because I've been going through my evolution, trying to figure out, what is good, what is bad, just doing the whole, just going through my own evolution, figure out how I'm going to adapt to this new world as well as the world outside. And so I went to the bachelorette party. I said, screw it. I'll do some smoking, I'll drink some alcohol, and when I get home, I'm going to drink the J juice and release the excess. So that's how I rationalize my allowing myself to partake in something that I still identified as something that was bad, because I've been, of course, in the decline, and in a major state of decline for more years than on the J juice. So when you are on a state of decline at a deficit for more years than you are on the J juice, you are still going to adopt those characteristics, those characterizations of things, of plants, animals, and elements as something bad or good based upon how it impacts your biochemistry. Okay, so long story short, I smoked cigarettes, okay, whatever, drank alcohol. I swear I drank so much alcohol, I drank people under the table. Some people were sick, and my body was able to handle it because my system was so clean and so fast at processing the alcohol that it didn't affect me like it would have many, many years back, or let's say a year ago. I think the last time I got so super, super, super drunk to where I was throwing up was in August of 2016. And so I vowed not to drink alcohol again. And then I was in the process of quitting smoking. Okay? Because I was smoking on and off, dealing with stress. I was dealing with stress of working as an insurance sales agent in a call center in a boiler room, wanting to be ahead and annihilate my competition. I've been wanting to, I've been dealing with, my stress in my relationship, because when you're on a decline, when you're at a deficit, many parts of your life get impacted. And so, especially with my PMDD, which never kept me consistent or stable, I was always on a decline at least 2 weeks out of the month, and that cannot be anything good for any relationship. So anyways, so then from 2016 to 2020, I think I finally got off the cigarettes in like, I would say in 2017 is when I finally got off the cigarettes, and I had no addiction for them. Okay, but I wanted us, just to stay, because I would stay clean of everything that I had a pejorative type of relationship with. And so no drinking, no smoking, whatever. And I still don't even want to drink alcohol today. Okay, so there's things out there that I don't want to, still do, even though I know I probably could do it, but I really don't want to. All right, but anyways, so now finally 2020, I'm able to drink and smoke after like 3 or 4 years of not. And after drinking that alcohol, like a lot of it, like super, like shots and shots and moonshine and different, like apple shine, all this stuff, shots of this and shots of that, and holy crap. Then after the bachelorette party, I did the J juice, and yes, my body was going through an evolution. It was steadily releasing all the excess. All the people that were around is all evolution, so I was going through an evolution. And so, okay, fine. And the temperature was going on and off in my body. My temperature was going on and off. And then I was fine. I was fine. Now, am I going to go and do that again and drink a bunch of, no. Okay? Because I don't really want to drink. I have no desire to drink. So even at this point where I'm at, in the as above world, okay? Was I under the influence? Yes. Probably. But do I really want to partake in something like that and be under the influence as well? I mean, at this point, and now I'm still evolving. I just stopped my period. I was still getting my period back in freaking July. I just stopped my period since August 15th was my last period. August 15th. So I've already evolved even since July. Since that time, I was actually introducing alcohol and cigarettes back into my system again, and then using the J juice as my way of rationalizing that experience and help me deal with it, and I was fine. So even so in August, no period, which I'm telling people, when you don't get a period on the J juice, after you reverse all your issues, you don't have to drop insurance policies, which are eggs. And for men, it's semen. Okay, you're not going to have the desire to go and procreate because you're going to be the best copy. So I stopped my period on August 15th, like I predicted at some point it may happen, but I wasn't sure. But I was, I didn't know how long I'd be going through this evolution process, figure out how the elements are going to impact me. But like anything, you're supposed to adapt to your environment. What is your environment? Your microbiome. Viruses, parasites, protozoa, protein, fungus, and bacteria, all the elements on the periodic tables, and then, of course, biodiversity, which is all of that, and then biochemistry, fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals. That is your whole environment you're supposed to adapt to on some level. And everything works together in conjunction. They're symbiotic, and then you have a design, an architect, a design of your body that has a purpose. Every single part of your body has a purpose. Okay? And so now in the as above world, which all of you guys are right now still in your infancy of even getting there. At this point, you're just starting the process. But in the as above world, therapies and drugs are not going to be something that what you do with all the different plants and minerals and biodiversity, nobody can say that what you're doing is like a drug. See, anyone that conflict, like in my as above world, I still get people in the so below world wanting to debate with me because they're projecting their way, their biochemistry, how the world influences their biochemistry, and they're trying to now characterize my biochemistry with their biochemistry, and they can't do that because they have no idea the level of evolution that I'm in right now and what I went through the last 4 freaking years. They can only speak for themselves as far as, is a cigarette a drug? A cigarette, and here's the thing, and that what triggered me was yesterday when this lady who reminded me of somebody else that has finally calmed down on my Facebook. She was being very boisterous and very verbal and trying to argue with me on one of my videos from down my timeline regarding cigarette and a drug when I showed that I was smoking a cigarette. And that is, when I'm smoking a cigarette, I'm actually now breaking the programming that a cigarette isn't a drug. It's like a food, okay, because it's just a heavy source of plants and minerals that, like a pasta, might make you happy for a minute, but it's not like you're under the influence, right? I mean, when there's so much minerals in a cereal, now this we have to understand how chemistry works and why you can't characterize foods as bad. Or like, oh, I can't eat this GMO food, I can't eat this food, it has too many chemicals. Well, what the hell are chemicals? They're minerals. That's what chemicals are. Now, am I going to go drink a thing of Windex? Hell no. Because Windex is not FDA approved, and why the hell would I drink Windex? That's stupidity. But if there is something that's FDA approved, that's already gone through the Food and Drug Administration processes where they've already done the testing to see how it's going to affect the general population, which basically is on a decline, at a deficit and a decline, you're going to get something that's FDA approved that's not going to affect you. Okay, hardly like at all, and it might affect somebody with a very sensitive, influential biochemistry. So that's when people have to gauge whether or not they can eat certain foods out there because they have a very sensitive, imbalanced biochemistry. And that's why you see so many people making judgment calls on foods, on all different types of drinks, and and so that's when you have the Tower of Babel, when you have so many different biochemistries all trying to project what reality is, and in reality it's their reality that they're projecting, but they cannot at all characterize somebody else's biochemistry as if it was their own. Now, the Food and Drug Administration has to be able to put a pool of people together and say, okay, in a general sense, this type of drug, this type of food is relatively okay, but like anything, go see your freaking doctor if you have a question about how something's going to affect you. But for me, when I was showing that I was smoking a cigarette online, it's no different than eating a chocolate. When you eat chocolate, it releases certain pleasure hormones, oxytocin, okay, with different things. So, if you want me to really come down to it, I can equate that 1 or 2 cigarettes during my creative process like eating a freaking chocolate. When someone wants to go get their Captain Crunch fix, yeah, that could be a drug if their body is influenced craving something to such extent where if they don't get it, their body goes into a deficit, into a decline, into whatever. And so here's the thing: do I do now? This is where people are like, "Are you rationalized? I had to have a cigarette. Oh, I want a cigarette." That is where people out there on the decline, the so below world, are rationalizing their addictions, knowing that there is a social construct, a very negative social construct around addiction and drugs. And so, yes, they're in denial. So there's that psychological characterization of somebody not admitting that they are a drug addict in some way. But when you understand in the as above world that smoking a cigarette or eating a bowl of Captain Crunch, which has a lot of minerals, or eating a piece of chocolate because you feel like you want to feel that little lift or whatever, and you want to, or drinking coffee. I mean, you need your body is full of hormones. You realize your body is full of hormones. You're always influencing your hormones in some way, but it's about balance. But somebody in the so below world cannot rationalize balance at all because they're so imbalanced. So what kind of balance are they trying to achieve when they can't even filter what balance is, because they're dealing with the imbalanced biochemistry that's impacting the way they think and the way they rationalize the world. Okay, their logic is imbalanced. And so that's why if all else fails, if you really cannot comfortably logically understand something that is conflicting with your belief systems, just do the J juice. Just do the J juice and suspend all disbelief, because eventually your biochemistry is going to change at some point. Now, how that's going to look like in your world, like your world, Patricia, I have no idea. Only you know how in which you view the world through whatever lens that you have. And will it change? Well, you can share it or not. You don't have to. You'll know what thoughts, beliefs, and body parts change over time. But you guys gotta stay on it. You can't be doing this on and off. You gotta be consistent. Some people are like, oh yeah, I'll do it for a month and get off for a month. I'll do it for a month, get off for a month. I mean, when the body is trying to heal, you've got to at least give it time for it to heal and seal, and then give it enough, and then eat enough food. But you still have so much healing to do. You can't just heal and seal in 1 month and think, okay, I do the J juice, I do the waterfalls, and I think that's it. You realize you have like feet and feet and feet and feet of intestines that maybe you healed 1/3 of it, but there's still 2/3 that haven't been healed yet. And you get off for a month. And now you have still more antibodies in your body and all the other deficits. You have imbalances that are now punching new holes, more leaky gut. And so now you have to start over again. Okay? But then maybe you might have purged out, something that could have potentially caused death from a heart attack. So you might have bought yourself 10 years being on the J juice. Sugar, hold on a second. My dog, I got it. Sugar, come on. She needed an invitation on the bed. So anyway, so yeah, when you do the J juice, you might have released an antibody that could have potentially been the straw that broke the camel's back, and you would have died from a heart attack. Okay? So there's no telling that you being on the J juice could have, for a certain amount of time that you were like Patricia, it could have bought you 10 years. You didn't even know it. But how would you know? You can't predict the future, right? But it could have bought you 10 years. But you stay with whatever you're doing, you don't do J juice, and then you're dealing with an environment that's so aggressive, and you still have deficits. You don't want those deficits to get out of control. So you have to be consistently on it and actually see specific measurable results that you can measure in real time to know that you are on the trending upward. Because at this point, if you guys are not, if nobody's doing J juice, they are trending downward, and that's obvious. Look at your friends and family. They're all dying and reproducing simultaneously. And then they die outright after, a certain amount of time after they've reproduced. Because the body says, okay, we sense that you're at a deficit. extinction is going to happen, so we're going to drop eggs, we're going to drop semen, we're going to make everybody all hot to trot because human extinction, at the micro level is happening, which is each person in a whole community of population of people. Okay, so yesterday, yes, I did take that girl off my Facebook because she was trying to impose her so below world onto me and would not stop. And when someone is taking my information and twisting it to their so below world, not understanding where I'm coming from, and they may not have the capacity to understand because they're in such a deficit and so brainwashed by the system. Because yes, when you are trending downward, all the things that have been told you about therapies and drugs, that is a reality for you, but it ain't a reality for me. That's the difference. And that's what people have to understand. When I say things, it's coming from an as above world who, and you're like, well, who are you being as above? It's about biochemistry, how things influence your biochemistry. This is the definition of what a drug is, so you understand. Give me 1 second. I gotta go down my timeline. Drug. Noun, pharmacology, a chemical substance used in the treatment, cure, prevention, or diagnosis of a disease, or used to otherwise enhance physical or mental well-being. And, if that last part of that sentence was the case, really, when you think about it, because that really is very vague, then you could say, well, me eating a bowl of Captain Crunch because I want that for breakfast. Does that mean that's a drug? No. So that's a little vague. But when somebody is using ayahuasca for mental illness, or using different mushrooms for mental illness, or trying to open up their pineal gland, or when someone's using Reiki so they can assist in opening up their pineal gland, yes, then therapies and drugs are used to assist somebody who otherwise would not have the ability to do it on their own. But then there's a fine line. Well, you need food because you can't regenerate without, something. So there's a fine line between, what is enhancing a small part of your well-being, but not so much where you're at a deficit. Because, yeah, when you have cancer, disease, and chronic illness, you're at an extreme deficit. When you're aging and degrading, you're at an extreme deficit. So everything would be a freaking drug to you that's influencing you to act a certain way or be a certain way when your personality changes. Okay, and I think that's really the best characterization of a drug, is when your personality changes and you have to use something to maintain a certain level of personality. And that's why people go and get, antidepressants, because they're so depressed because they're at a deficit that they need something to now go and manipulate their hormones. And so that's what a drug is, right? So any substance intended for use as a component of such a drug, but not a device or part of a device. Okay. And then I put, hey, sugar, chocolate. Also, there's 2 other neuroactive drugs, but you need sugar. And this is where people start demonizing sugar because there's such an imbalance of fatty acids. Okay, and sugar will make you gain weight, especially if you're underweight. But sugar maintains, your healing hormones. The prostaglandins are laying within your fatty acids. You don't have enough fat, you're not going to be able to heal from any kind of wound. You have too much fat, it's going to tax your organs. It's all about balance. But a person who is in a so below world on a decline, trending downward, will not understand where I'm coming from. So you almost have to shut the hell up, excuse my language. But those that are having an issue with my information and it's conflicting with your belief systems, it's because you're dealing with your biochemistry. You are working from a very, different biochemistry than me, which means that you have nothing really that I want to hear as far as you imposing your beliefs. So that's why nobody is supposed to debate on my page, because if you have an issue with my beliefs based upon my biochemistry, there is no way you're going to convince me that your biochemistry, which is imbalanced, is anything that I want to be, aligning myself with. But if you're on my page for a reason, you want to understand where I'm coming from and some kind of different access to something different, maybe it's time to be quiet and not argue with me and not try to debate with me or impose your biochemistry on me. And that's that. And I don't get as many of those people, but the ones that I do, I shut down very quickly because they're not open to hearing something different. They're open to more of the same, which is imposing and infecting their biochemistry onto the world. And that's not what I'm about. I'm trying to show what the future could be. Like, do I have right now at this point, I don't have any desire to drink. I don't, even right now, I don't feel like smoking. Maybe I will down the road, later on today or not. I don't know. It just depends on what I'm doing. But I mean, usually when I'm in a very major creative process, it helps enhance the hormones, and that's what I was trying to say when I was doing that transmission about cigarettes and what cigarettes are. They're just elements. Anything that's psychoactive is relative to the biochemistry it's influencing or not influencing. If something is psychoactive, it means because you have a biochemistry that's easily influenced. And then, like anything, you don't want to take something. Because I would say, for me to be influenced by certain things, that drug and that psychoactive substance would have to be like probably 10 or 15 times stronger than somebody could get, like, let's say for example, brown weed versus green, like really major green weed, hydroponic, like GMO weed. Well, brown weed I'd probably be like, whatever, it's like smoking a cigarette, right? But someone who has a very sensitive immune system, sensitive body, would probably get high off of brown weed. And okay, but then someone that's that smokes so much of a pot would probably be immune to most things because the body adapted to it. Or somebody who is so like in the as above world would need something really really strong to be able to influence the body, because the body is getting such an amount of antibodies. It's like it'd be a poison. For a person to be under the influence, it means that antibodies are being created, which is influencing the biochemistry. And do I really want to poison my body to that extent? There's a certain amount of antibodies that gets created when you're evolving or adapting to different conditions, but you're supposed to release the antibodies as well, not accumulate. And that's why you're seeing people dying from cancer, disease, and chronic illness, because they're not releasing the excess antibodies as well as anything else excess. Okay, so it's such about balance. So that's why I don't like people debating with me, or people who are therapists or who are naturopathics or well-being specialists will never understand my information, because they're still in the trending downward. They're dealing with people who are trending downward, and they are trending downward themselves. No matter how much they rationalize, oh no, I'm healthy. They look cute for a certain amount of time. So did Arnold Schwarzenegger. He looked great for a certain amount of years, and you look at him today, he looks like, a shell of himself. He looks like he's going to be, he's aging. No amount of plastic surgery can hide what Mother Nature would do to someone who is not taking what they need to survive. Okay? So yeah. As above, so below. And so what else did I say about that? Oh yeah, and guess what? That movie last night? Someone mentioned this a long time ago, back in my conspiracy days, about the cabin in the woods, and how that was a controlled reality that was being that was being created for human sacrifice. And so listen to this. I don't know if you can hear this or not. Let me know if you can. Can you hear that? Were you able to hear that? You might not have been able to. But So, yeah. But here's the thing. That cabin in the woods is exactly reflective of what's going on right now. Yeah, we are in a depopulation agenda. And they are giving you a certain amount of freedom of choice to where you choose to live or die. You can choose to ignore or you choose to transgress. If you transgress, you will be taken away. You will be destroyed. What is transgressions? Well, when you break the law, and also when you break the laws of the body, when you are violating the laws of life of the body. And so that whole cabin in the woods is what they were saying, is that no, they have to make the choice on their own free will. Otherwise, the system doesn't work. It's like the harbinger, okay, which is like this omen of doom. They can choose to ignore it, or they can choose to transgress. Those that choose to transgress and try to kill the harbinger of doom will then have that reaction to be then killed right back. And so that's really what's going on today, is that all the politics, religion, and science and everything that's all this duality is like the harbinger. You can choose to ignore it and don't transgress and you'll survive, or you try to fight something and resist something and you will basically, die in the end. That was such an amazing movie. I didn't watch it throughout because the little circle of death on the internet was going through. But I'm telling you, that was really exactly what the Jilly Juice world is about, is you'll be able to ignore the harbinger of doom, okay? And you won't transgress and you will survive and you will start trending upward. But those that do not ignore the harbinger of dooms and they want to go and react, okay, they will eventually transgress. And even if you don't, even if you're ignoring all the harbinger of dooms, but you are not taking care of your body, and you are, well, no matter what, if you're not taking care of your body, you're always going to transgress. So if you're not doing J juice, you're going to transgress at some point because you're causing more imbalances. You haven't balanced out your body, mind, and spirit. So I know right now I'm probably hitting a lot of people's belief systems because of that they're on a trending downwards. And when you're on a trending downwards, on a biochemistry that's very, 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 that's your reality. Oh, Lordy. Yeah, it's not easy. But I'm okay with that. But I want you to understand, at some point in the new world, they're not going to be need of drugs, disease, therapies. And so you're going to have to find a different way to make a living. But those that are still circulating within the so below world trending downward at a deficit, at a decline, they're going to try to take all the minerals before they go. And then there's nowhere to spend it. Okay, so I got to make like I pay bills. Okay. Imagine if you were living indefinitely, how would you spend your time? What would you be doing that wasn't having to do with somebody's biochemistry? Trying to manage someone's symptoms of de-evolution. Because yes, that's what you're doing, is you're managing their symptoms of de-evolution and causing them more de-evolution when you are in the holistic allopathic world. And I already proven yesterday that Rockefeller medicine already took a hold of it, and even if you do your own little remedies, that's no different. That's probably even worse than what Rockefeller is doing. At least Rockefeller is regulating so that way you don't kill yourself with freaking antibiotics. But those that want to make their own are actually causing more destruction to their friends and family. And that's why I made it a point yesterday to really look at the holistic world. Where did that come from? And then yes, the MK Ultra, 1960s and 1970s, all the spiritual gurus that came out of that, either Hare Krishnas or the Charles Mansons or all these new age spiritual people that sit on a mountain, meditate and throw crystals at each other. That's all offshoots of the 1960s. Those are all harbingers of doom. You can either ignore them or you react to them. But I'm showing you a difference between the two. So that way, now you have a choice. And you can still be spiritual and have your belief systems, that's fine. Because, like Patricia Rainey, you're in the, I forget, it's like Yeshua. and those are words that represent something that's very important to you. You could still understand J juice, and even though I'm like not into like any kind of religion, but I'm into life. And so Yeshua and all the different representations of what you believe in represents life, represents life and health, and you know, something balanced. Because I don't want anyone thinking that death is the way to go. When death is the ultimate outcome of any religion, then you're part of a death cult. Now, some people will take their religion that's meant for life and turn it into a death thing and rationalize death. And then some people take the same, religion and be on a life trajectory, trending upwards, not a deficit. And they would have a great character, like Christina Morrison, Jehovah's Witness. I know people in her world that are Jehovah's Witness that believe in death, but Christina has a biochemistry that's trending upward. So she's going to find a way to explain Jehovah's Witness in a life form, in a life way, as opposed to somebody who is on a trending downward is going to explain Jehovah's Witness like, oh, you gotta go, die, whatever. So if you take anything, any religion, belief system, whatever, and have it trend upward and reflect life, or based on your biochemistry, it can reflect death. It's up to each person to be in a major representation relative to your biochemistry, how you want your religion to manifest. But I'm saying about life and death, trending upward, trending downward, balance, macro level versus micro level. You have to understand when you say, oh yeah, everything's about life, remember, there is death, has to be part of life, but death at the micro level, keeping the macro level intact. That's the only way you're going to be able to get people to understand, because if you say, oh yeah, everything's about life, well, people are like, well, cells are splitting all the time. They're going to take science and throw science at you to discredit your statement. So you have to understand, life at the macro level is ultimate. But it's okay to have life and death at the micro level, because cells split, evolution happens, antibodies have to exist. But no one should be dying at the macro level. There should be more life at the micro level than death, so that way the macro level body can live indefinitely. It's when the micro level is at a deficit on a continuous basis that the macro level of the body starts disintegrating. And that is not the J-Juice world. J-Juice is integrating with the universe, not disintegrating. Okay? So that's it. Bye.